music theory. This is lesson number 5. Woo, yeah. Okay, so hopefully you mastered the previous lesson, and hopefully you still have some hair left. You haven't ripped it all out. I know this can be pretty hard, but just remember that if you keep at it, it will get a lot easier. Okay. So the very next thing we're going to get into is we were looking at note values before. Now I need to cover the opposite thing, which is called rests. Okay. So rests are silent beats. Ooh. Okay. So let's get right into it. Okay. So here's the first thing. So you have to remember that in music, sometimes you'll hear da 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 da, right? There's going to be a break where you just won't hear anything. Now in music we have notes that make sound, okay, and we have rests that have no sound. It's almost like it's almost like a counted note, but it's silent. We have to count the silence because if we don't, then we won't come in on beat. And then every time there's a rest, if there's two people playing and you had a rest and you guys weren't counting, you wouldn't come in together at the same time. So we have rests and we use them for effect. There's a lot of musical effects for rests. There's some people, like some composers, who would use rests for very important things, and it's been said many places that notes are silver and rests are golden. Like rests are actually more important than notes are. So a good rest is something you never ever 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 want to skip over. They're very important, and they actually make up and fill out the beats of the bar that we use, and so there's something that you do not want to look over, okay? So now that I warned you about that, I always tell my students, I'm like, okay, if you hold your note through that rest when you're supposed to have one, you just murdered that rest. Don't be a murderer. So that's kind of what I tell them. So don't murder your rests. Okay, now if you're doing theory, it's not like you're going to be holding anything through because you're just going to be writing. But anyway, it's just important to know that. Okay, so now these notes, rests, some are silent, some are not. Like notes are not silent. An example that I like to give people is, okay, say you had two friends. One of them is really loud and charismatic and they're always talking and everything, and you're like, oh, that friend's awesome. And then you have another friend who's really quiet and hardly ever says anything, but you still like that friend and you enjoy their company. Now, just because the quiet friend doesn't talk as much and the loud friend talks all the time, which friend is more important? Neither. They're both still your friends, and just because one talks more than the other doesn't mean that the other friend doesn't matter anymore. So just always remember that they're equal. It's not like rests are subservient to notes or notes are subservient to rests. In music, they're treated as equal, okay? So whether there's sound or not sound, it's the same thing, it's equal. Okay, so now, that aside, why I drew this is because you can actually use what you learned with the notes to learn the rests. There actually are counterparts to everything. So you have a whole note, that's this, the circle, and this is a whole rest right here. So you guessed it, it has the same amount of beats, it has the same length that you hold it, and yeah, that's basically how it goes. Now when you're drawing it on sheet music, so say you have 5 lines, oops, I have 4 there. These rests out here always go on the second top line, and well, sort of, they go in this third space right here. So if you're drawing a rest like that, you'd put it right there. Now if you're drawing a half rest, you're actually going to put it in the space, but it'd be going up like this, like that. This is just really rough, but that's where you'd want to draw it, is in that third space. And when you're drawing something like this, you're going to start somewhere around here, probably on the top space, and then do your thing like that. And then these are other rests here, and you'll start the first dot like this, and then come up like that. And then if you're doing that, you just add a second one right there, and then boom. Okay? So that's where they go on the staff, at least. Okay, so as you can see, a whole rest looks like this. How you can remember a whole rest is a whole rest is see how it's like it goes downwards. So you could imagine someone's walking along and they're like do 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 do, and they're walking along in the beach, like this nice beach, and they're watching the sunset, and they're like, ah, it's so wonderful. The sand between my toes, and the waves rolling in, the sea foam just calmly going, and the birds buzzing, and then they fall down into a hole. Someone dug a hole in the sea, or in the beach, and then they fell inside this hole. So they're like, boom, and then they just fall in. So you can think of it as a whole rest. Okay? Now this, so it's half rest, half note, 2 beats for a half rest, just like a whole half note. Okay? Now this is all in 4/4 time signature, by the way. So we're just gonna, since it's the main one, that's what we're gonna learn everything in. So, half note is the same as, or half rest, half note are the same thing. Now what we want to do is, how I like to remember it at least, is this kind of looks like a hat, doesn't it? Like a top hat. So you're like, my hat rest. I know it's kind of silly, but yeah. Anyway, so so this is a hat rest or a half rest, and that's worth 2 beats. And literally, you just draw like a box that goes on top, and that's about it. Now, for a quarter rest, this is a quarter rest right here, which doesn't really look anything like those. And so they're both worth 1 beat. Now, how you draw a good quarter rest is like this: take your note, take your pen. Now draw it down, and then draw it to the left, and then draw it down. It's almost like drawing a Z or a Z. You go dit dit dit. And then when you get to the end of it, then you're going to go and you put a C on the bottom. So it's like a C. So it's Z and a C. Okay? Alright. Now, so that's worth 1 beat. Okay? And remember, it's a quarter rest. Okay, now 8th. So this is an 8th rest. How you draw these is, I always do like a dot. Now I do a U. And now I draw a line down, like that. And I try to also make it in kind of like the shape of a Y. So that one is worth the same as an 8th note, but it's an 8th rest. Now you've got 16th notes. So 16th notes basically go like this. You just do the same thing you did before with a dot and a down, and then you do another dot, and then you just add it. And then if you're going to go to a 32nd note, you just draw 3. So you go boom, boom, boom. And if you were doing a 64th note, you do 4, and you get the idea. So that is how it works. So those are all your rests. So now let's show you how we can put them together in a bar. Homework. No. Okay, so for your homework, what I would like you to do is I want you to practice and memorize the names of all the rests, and I want you to practice drawing them on sheet music. Okay, so put them in the 3rd space for the half note and the whole note, and then draw your quarter rest and your 8th rest and your 16th rests. So I want you to draw at least, I'd say about 20 of each type of rest, and identify what it's called and and basically how many beats you're going to hold it for. Okay? So yeah, so do that, and then in the next video I'm going to show you how to put it all together, so like how you'll put rests and notes in a bar, because there's a specific way you need to do it. Okay, so I hope you guys found that helpful and enjoyable, and I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.